Hello, and welcome to Transformation by Truth podcast, where the called become the chosen, and those who have been dedicated to serve the Most High receive the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as we progress our quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. My name is D.L. Anderson. I'll be your tour guide. Let's get started with today's lesson. Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast and the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. Today, we have another brief word from your host and a reminder that exciting times are on the way. Today's podcast is entitled The Father's Controversy with Leadership, Part 3. And he spoke a parable to them. Is the blind able to lead the blind? Shall they not both fall into a pit? Luke 6:39. The podcast objectives are provide you with a personal update of what's transpiring in my life, discuss the nature of living in the last days, and reveal how you can survive the terror that is coming to our world. Now, our first section is entitled Personal Update. As I shared a few months ago, the Father called me to relocate my family. What I didn't know then is that this calling would be one of the greatest leaps of faith I have ever taken in my life, and the first of many I will be taking in the very near future. Without going too far into the details, we sold our house in one day, and we sold it for much higher than our asking price. The miraculous nature of the entire event has led me to refer to it as the May 1st miracle, and I continue to do so unto this day. Our prayers were answered in the most fantastic way. Nevertheless, we went many weeks without any clear direction as to where the Father wanted us, and our options locally were few and far in between. That's when it became clear to us. The Father was taking us on a journey, and the first of many we must endure in these last days. As it often is with the Father's will, what materialized was beyond our expectations. The sum of the blessings was beyond amazing, but the path to receive the harvest was truly a challenge and a test of many spiritual precepts. My dear friends, I am happy to say we passed them all, and now we are here in a very good place, a better place than where we came from. It wasn't easy getting here, and the enemy, as expected, reared his ugly head. But he didn't prevent us from realizing our destiny. He didn't stop us from fulfilling another solid frame of our purpose. The takeaway for me and a powerful lesson I want to share with you is simple, and I will offer it as an interest point. I ask you to remember it because the same lesson is waiting for you if you haven't already learned it. Even though the path we must travel to fulfill our Master's will is often more difficult than we expect, the reward we find in succeeding is always greater than we could have ever imagined if we constantly put forth our best. I'm a living witness. My life just went from perfect to even more perfect. And I am very excited to be restarting this podcast now that I am established in my new home and have harnessed a model of spiritual momentum that has made me even more powerful in the spirit. Amen. Now, our next section is entitled Living in the Last Days. Besides settling in a new community, I have spent the past 7 weeks teaching and leading an end times conference. In the beginning, I thought I might be able to teach at this conference and keep this podcast ministry going. But the spiritual demands on leading this conference prevented me. In showing how we are living in the final hours of these last days, the Father called me to focus exclusively on the material I was presenting and to give myself to prayer and fasting to enhance each delivery. The result, men and women spanning multiple congregations heard and received the truth concerning the end times, and a powerful movement similar to the Exodus is forming. Elohim is lifting his mighty hand and recovering his people a second time. Seeing as I was called to this purpose and to be a leader of this movement, I am now speaking with various leaders concerning the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life I have been championing from the beginning. And they are preparing their congregations to join us. Here is why. The quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life is integral to obtaining the seal of Elohim, i.e., you cannot acquire the seal if you are not in some fashion on this quest and being transformed into the spiritual image and likeness of Yahushua Mashiach. This is beyond crucial, for you cannot be saved in these last days without the seal of Elohim. Trust me, it is the only protection we have against all the evil that is coming to our world and all the evil that is already here. And if you think things are bad all over the world now, just wait. They are about to get much, much worse. Revelation 7, 1-3 reads, and after this, I saw 4 messengers standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Elohim. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Elohim upon their foreheads. This passage reveals a critical finding about the times we are living in. Namely, the true servants of Elohim are being sealed this very moment by his messengers. And this, my friends, is the only reason we will make it through these last days. We know this because John saw 4 other messengers. These messengers were charged with destroying the earth and that which is within the earth. However, they were told not to destroy anything or anyone until the sealing of the set apart ones was complete. My dear friends, hear me when I say the sealing of the set apart ones is almost complete. It can literally end any day now. And it will be followed by a terrible season that will result in the deaths of 2.7 billion men, women, and children worldwide. And if you think that is bad, the seasons that will follow will cause the deaths of 3.5 billion and a desolate earth where, as the word truth reveals, only a few men will be left. And the only way you can guarantee that you will not be one of these casualties is by obtaining the seal of Elohim. The $1 million question then And the only question you should be asking yourself, the only question that matters is simply, how do I obtain the seal of Elohim? There is no life, no salvation without it. How do I obtain the seal of Elohim? Now, our next section is entitled, To Survive What is Coming. I have already answered this question at a high level, i.e., you must be on the path of transformation, i.e., the way of holiness. This reality, no doubt, increases the relevance and the urgency of our message and this ministry. It also validates the timing in which I was called to this ministry, for the time is at hand. We are living in the final hours of man's day. Those who have a spiritual ear to hear are receiving this word of truth, and we praise Elohim for you. Those who do not have a spiritual ear to hear will not hear. They will not receive this message, just as they are not receiving other forms of truth. This speaks to another controversy the Father has with leadership. I may have taken weeks off from this podcast, but I did not disconnect from the spiritual train of thought Elohim initiated in me a few months ago. As I said then, the controversy the Father has with leadership is great, and he has called me to speak out against his opponents for this while, not in some carnal wrangling, but to reveal to his chosen ones that there is a better way. You do have options. The faulty leadership you are seeing in the conglomerate church is not the only leadership available to you. You don't have to be stuck on a pew with a backwards pastor and a congregation of men and women you cannot trust. Likewise, you don't have to sit at home and make yourself a prey to the enemy. There are ministers in our world who are walking in spirit and truth. And unlike the false prophets in the church circuit, we understand the times and seasons we are living in. Like our counterparts, we are preparing our congregations for what is coming. We are teaching them what it takes to obtain the seal of Elohim, and we are leading them down the only path by which they may obtain it. We are also revealing to them what is coming by the Spirit, which has revealed to us the same knowledge. And this is why we will survive it. This is why we will still be here after the displeasure is past. For the only way to endure any calamity of this magnitude is to know what is coming and to take the steps of insulation and avoidance. This, my friends, is what the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life is all about. It's about keeping you on the only path that will allow you to survive what is coming and ensuring you understand the times and seasons we are living in. While these false prophets and their debased assemblies are following the model of business as usual and living their lives completely unawares of what is happening in the spirit realm, we are making our calling and election sure. We are obtaining the seal of Elohim, and we are running with it. Here's a question. How does this relate to the controversy the Father has with the leadership within the conglomerate church? The answer, these spiritually and misinformed leaders are rocking their assemblies to sleep at the most critical time in the history of our world. Consider this. We are on the verge of witnessing death and destruction on a scale this earth has never known. And these false teachers are oblivious to what is coming. Thus, Instead of preparing their flocks, they are tragically diverting their attention to anything and everything else. And the only seal they are obtaining is a seal of death. My dear friends, the infamous day of Yahuwah is on the horizon. Everyone who is not being prepared by qualified spiritual leaders will die. That is not my word, that is the word. And if this is not a word you are receiving from your leaders, here is another red flag, another indicator you are in a failed ministry and being led by men and women who are spiritually incompetent. For how do you rate a ministry if it fails to fulfill the singular purpose by which it was formed? You may have 10,000 or 100,000 in your midst, but if you all end up in the lake of fire, it meant nothing. And in the end, it will be as if none of you ever existed. That is the blue pill the powerless leaders in the church circuit are offering you. I am offering you the truth. And I pray for those of you who have continued with this ministry until now. As I've often said before, the harvest is nigh, and the Father is beginning to accelerate the rate by which he is removing the tares from his field. Accordingly, the price and the value of being wheat is high, and it is increasing every day. And if you want to meet that value and exceed that price, you're going to need qualified leaders with whom the Father has no controversy. Look no further, my friends. You're already here, and I'm quite sure you know this. As for me, I'm back and I'm better than ever, and I'm ready to start this quest. I trust you are too, because it will be soon. A few more lessons conclude this impromptu series, and we'll be on our way soon. Now, here is the final word. The trees have fallen, and where they have fallen is where they shall lie. In making this a vow, I want for those who have been called and are choosing to be chosen to understand that there are many in our midst who are not going to make it. They are not going to survive these last days. Do not fret over this matter, and do not let it trouble you, for they are victims of their own choices and their refusal to walk in obedient faith to the Father's will. There is nothing you can do and nothing that could have been done. The reward we all inherit is a byproduct of free will and the path we willfully chose to walk in this life. The question you must ask yourself is, what path will you choose to follow? What choices are you going to make? My advice is simply choose wisely and choose now. For I cannot stress this enough. The time is at hand. And be prepared to let go of anything and everyone to obtain the high calling and the seal of Elohim. Trust me, it is the only way. I know from experience, it is the only way. Now, here is the assignment for today. Begin praying and fasting as you are led by the Spirit and ask the Father for insight as to the times and seasons we are living in. Likewise, ask Him to reveal to you the steps you must take to survive what is coming. As I have often said before, I am not asking you to take my word for anything. I am asking you to hear what I'm saying and validate the word by the Spirit that is within you. And as this knowledge required me be heavily engaged in prayer, fasting, and focus, it will require the same from you. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, The Father's Controversy with Leadership, Part 3. And the next podcast is The Father's Controversy with Leadership, Part 4. I don't know when I'll post it, but I promise I will be led by the Spirit, and I trust you will too. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Remember to tune in with us every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't already, visit us at www.pinnacleofholiness.com and make sure you sign up to join the quest for holiness, perfection, and everlasting life 2022.